Shalom. I'm recording this video for several reasons. Because, for one, the bad news is the three Jewish boys that were kidnapped have been found. All three of them were killed. That's Naphtali, Gilead, and Eyal were their names. And it was announced that they were found today. Now today is June 30th. Here in the States it's still the first day of the fourth month. In Israel it's the second day of the fourth month. And it's very heavy on a lot of our hearts. And not just Israel, it's, here in America, we, because at least one of those boys was American. All three of them were Jewish, but one of them was American, the other two Israeli nationals. And it hurts. When I first read the news that they had been found, my first feeling was anger. Just very intense anger, and followed by sadness. And I spoke with a friend, sister of mine, who was just absolutely grief-stricken, and which I won't go into details. Hers isn't my story to tell, but for one, and if you've just received this news just now, I apologize. I know it's not the best news at all, but I can't imagine by the time this video makes it up that no one had known about it. However, the video I'm posting now has a lot to do with the dream I had last night, which would have been the first day of the fourth month, and I keep saying that for a reason. I'll get to it in a moment. The importance of it is that something I'm trying to come into full understanding of. Now, when I say that I had a dream, this is not something I have on a regular basis, So, sorry. When I have a dream, I have a lot of dreams at night, but not all of them do I believe have any kind of meaning or significance. But this one I believe did, and it's a very rare thing if I have a dream, when I do have one, that I believe it has some kind of meaning behind it. So I'm going to share this dream, and basically I've figured out a lot of things, I believe, as to what the dream means and what the message is trying to tell me from the Almighty. So I'm sharing this now because I'm hoping that possibly there's someone out there with more wisdom than myself who can hear what is in this dream and interpret it. If there's no interpretation, I'll keep looking, I'll keep praying, and so on. But here's the dream. First of all, in my dream, it was nighttime, and the location I was at, I'm able to determine that I know the direction I was looking. So I was at the first, in my dream, the location I was first looking in the northwestern sky, and again, it was nighttime. It was a full moon. The moon then became 4 full moons. So I'm literally looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. There was 4 full moons right there together. And then slowly illuminating behind them was a very, very big moon. So imagine you have, and by the way, the bigger moon that I saw behind them was also a full moon. It was a harvest moon. I was able to determine by the color and so on. So within this big harvest moon, I see, 1, 2, 3, 4, just all right here. They all four could fit within the frame of the harvest moon. It was a gigantic, humongous moon that I was looking at. So then I turned around completely 180 degrees. Now I'm looking at the southeastern sky, and again it's nighttime. And at first, I kind of mentioned this on Facebook as well. It looked like an aurora borealis, you know, the northern lights. And of course, that's an odd thing for it to, appear in the south, aurora borealis. However, the friend I was speaking with, we kind of dug into it a bit more, and we found out something that there's different things that aren't exactly known as the aurora borealis. There's other things as well. It has something to do with like some kind of atmospheric electromagnetic kind of storms or whatever, and they can be as visible as the lower hemisphere, and sometimes have even been known to appear in the form of northern lights as far south as Texas. So it's, I guess, in the real world, that's not too outlandish. But their appearance, if you've ever seen a picture of an aurora borealis, it kind of looks wavy, you know. And I had the picture up, but I can't find it. Well, maybe that's it. Yeah, that's it. Let me show you this. Let's see it. That's kind of what I saw. But as I described it to my friend earlier, it looked more lightning-y and electrifying, you know. And so that's in the southeastern sky. In the northwestern sky is the harvest moon with the 4 full moons. Now, directly above me, about in the center of these two, I acknowledged that the images I was seeing made out of the stars, but visible enough so that even a person who was not completely educated in them, I suppose, or learned in them, what they are, what they represent, I knew that they were constellations. And, you know, the scriptures talk about the constellations. You have Betula, which is also known as the Virgo, and you also have the Lion, Leo, you know, and all these are originated from Hebraic meanings. So, you know, don't think about the zodiac necessarily. However, when I saw them, my first thought was the 12 constellations. Now, in my dream, me in the dream, I spoke out loud and I said, "This is the beginning," or "This is the start," or "It starts here." It was something along those lines. And then basically that's when the dream ended. I woke up, you know, I've been meditating on this all day, and it's one of those that I really believe has some kind of meaning. Now, to kind of midrash on this, to kind of think on it, here's what I kind of came to so far. I witnessed 4 full moons at first. Now, a month is determined by the sighting of the renewed moon. I had this dream about 4 full moons on the first day of the 4th month. So there's 4 moons. Likewise, however, behind them was a 5th full moon, if you will, which was a harvest moon. And if you look up what a harvest moon is, it's on a very specific time, which eventually occurs. I believe what I read was during the month of October. Or it's mostly in September, but every 3 years it actually occurs in September. Now, as I was speaking to my friend, I was telling her, you know, the harvest part of it. You know, we were kind of stuck on the harvest part for a little bit, and we were talking about Sukkot, or excuse me, Shavuot, Pentecost, the harvest time and so on. we were trying to figure out the whole harvest thing, and I was like, you know, what is, when was that, you know, in our time? Well, in the solar time, you know. She's like, oh, that was June 8th. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's true. You know, that was on a Sunday, with the first day of the week. So I was like, okay, what's 4 months from that day? And she said that would be October 8th. So you got, you know, June 8th and July 8th, August 8th, September 8th, October 8th. So I just typed in Sukkot 2014, and I know that this is based mostly on a calculated. We don't know exactly the day because we have to cite the new moon first. There's a bug in here, sorry. But I looked it up anyway, out of curiosity. Lo and behold, Wednesday, October 8th, Sukkot 2014 begins in the evening of Wednesday, October 8th. So exactly 4 months, according to this, and I'll be quite interested if this really does measure up to that. So yeah, you have that element of it. So that's quite interesting. Now, likewise, if you look at the ancient Israeli harvesting times, the time that we are currently in is the harvest of grapes, mostly fruit. I have a chart here. So in June time, you know, they start the harvest of grapes, and that goes on for 4 months. 4 again. So you got, this is according to this chart I'm looking at, which you can look at yourself as well. I'm going to try and post all these in the description. If I forget, I apologize. I'm kind of not here right now. But this is on gci.org/law/festivals/harvest, and it goes into great detail. Well, I say great detail. It goes into good detail, but I wouldn't say great detail. Anyways, table that I'm looking at, you got June, July, August, and September for harvest of grapes. Figs starts in August and ends in September. You also have pomegranates for those same 2 months. Now, when the grapes end is when the harvest of the olives begins. You got September, October, and November. Now, my friend also pointed out that Scripture talks about the crushing of grapes, and that's how that's where the wine comes from, of course. And also, in order to get olive oil, it must also be crushed. So that was an interesting thing, and I remembered. For those of you who don't know, which for me right now is really neither here nor there. It's not an important topic. I mean, of course, it's one of those. It's important to all parties involved, but Jim Staley, this whole idea about him being indicted and everything, he explained it from his perspective this past Sabbath. I missed the live broadcast because the Almighty was trying to teach me something, but I did see the uploaded. Recorded version yesterday, and the very first thing he talks about is talking about being a grape and being crushed, which I found very interesting in light of what I've just looking into this dream, and then I remember what he said, and it's just all these little dots start to connect and everything. But also I plan on putting the video in this video of him saying that. If I fail to do so, I'll apologize, and I'll try to have the link up. But that video should start now.
Some of us, when we are on a grapevine, we're called grapes in Scripture, and we get fat and we get plump, and we sit on the vine and we think, we have finally, you have arrived at your destination. You've reached no, the destination is not being full. It's not being fat and plump and mature on the vine. The destination is you have to be plucked from the vine. And that don't feel good to the grape. And the grape complains about being plucked from the vine, because then the grape says, well, wait a minute. I mean, what about all the other grapes? Why are you picking on me? And then the next thing you know is that the harvester takes the grape and he begins to throw it into a big pile with a bunch of other picked grapes. And next thing you know, there's people and there's smelly feet walking all over you. True story. In ancient days, this is how the wine press was made, is they put everything in this large outdoor vat, and people would stomp and literally walk all over the grapes. Anybody ever felt walked on? It's intended by God. And all the way until there's nothing left. Here's the cool part. When you take a grape off of a vine, and it has an individual personality, it has an individualness, a characteristic that's very clear. If you took one grape and put up, they might look similar, but you could actually see the individuality of the grape. But when you put them all into the vat, you can still see the individuality of each and every grape. That's called the family of God, all picked for tribulation and trial. And if you understand what James Yaakov is saying in his book when he says, consider it pure joy to face these trials, he's really saying, Mr. Grape, Mrs. Grape, consider it pure joy when the king chooses to pick you off of the vine, throw you into a vat, and let people walk on you. Because as you begin to be walked on with the rest of your family, over time, the individuality is removed. And the only thing that you see is the beautiful blood red color that wine is so famous for. And it is that beautiful blood red color of wine that gets poured into the cup of the king.
So the whole idea of the crushing of the grapes is interesting, considering the timing of my dream, the timing of the harvest period, as well as, the whole idea of the time frame between Shavuot and Sukkot. That rhymes. But it's just a bunch of interesting things. Now, also getting into the fact, I was thinking about, okay, I'm looking at these constellations. Constellations, of course, are of Hebraic origin, and they tell the story of creation from beginning to end. They tell of the Virgin, the Lion of the tribe of Yehuda, and so on. So you have, this is all, scriptural. It's telling that story, but it's also, we know that Revelation talks about Betula, the Virgin, and clothed with the sun, and so on. You got the lion, and this, the 7 stars, and so on. So there's biblical references to that, but there's also the element that it was between the two. You got the harvest moon, the 4 moons, which I believe represent months or times, at the very least, and then you got these lights of some kind of something, I don't know, and there was a lot of scientific words. I'm not even going to attempt it. But right in the middle of it all is these constellations, and in the dream I acknowledge, okay, constellations, 12 Israel, 12 tribes, that there's also, the constellations and stuff, so you also have the signs. The signs are all there, and they're right between these two. Out of curiosity, I looked up a map of the Middle East. You have Israel, and then to the south east you have Jordan, and then further beyond that you have Saudi Arabia, and then to the north west you have the Mediterranean Sea. And by the way, again, I'm hoping there's someone out there with far more wisdom than I that can interpret all these things, so I'm just throwing out all the information I've looked up so far. Now, on the same day, the first day of the 4th month, also the announcement of these 3 boys having been killed by these 2 Hamas members. At least they allegedly claim to be a part of Hamas. And, that said something to me. And, at first it was grief-stricken, and then, I'm also trying to meditate on the dream, and I'm just trying to figure it out. And then this sparks something. It's like, on the first day of the 4th month, again, the dream was on the first day of the 4th month. These boys were found on the 4th. So I started looking into the, what's going on with them. And so, out of curiosity, I looked up, okay, what do their names mean? Names mean something. I believe it's important. So I looked up their first names. I haven't really looked at their last names, but so I looked up the name Naphtali. That's one of the boys' names. And Naphtali, of course, is a person in Scripture. The 6th sixth son of Yaakov, or Yisrael, Jacob. Um, his name means wrestling or struggle. And you can read the story. The whole point of his birth begins at Bereshit, or Genesis 30. If you want to look into that for more reference, you can. And by the way, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. This is, I know it's these boys meant a lot to a lot of people. I didn't know them personally, but this sparked something in the whole nation of Israel. I mean, all thousands of people were involved in this, if not more. And also, I'm an American and I'm grafted in Israel, so it's I mean no disrespect. I'm just, honestly, I'm trying to look into a deeper mystery, and with these three boys being found, not only am I looking into the meanings of the names, but also what does this incident with the three of them, as well as Hamas, mean for the world? And me and my friend that I was speaking with earlier, we both agree something will come of this. This is a big deal. Okay, let's not underplay this at all. This is a very big deal. So Naphtali, wrestling, struggle, Gilead, or Gilad. In the Bible, Gilead means hill of testimony or mound of witness, a mountainous region also in the east of the Jordan River, now situated in Jordan, and so on. So I'm already seeing the wrestling, the witness. I also looked up the third name, which I misplaced. There it is. I just looked up the name Hayal. According to this, it means strength. So strength, wrestle, witness. Interesting kind of connection of words there. So again, I'm just throwing out more information now. Hamas issued a statement shortly after all this, and they said if the IDF and if Israel or anyone retaliates in relation to the finding of these three boys because of these two men, I think it was two, that claimed to be part of Hamas, if there is retaliation, they said, we will open up the gates of hell. First of all, I think it was very nice of them to finally admit that they are on hell's side. Cheap jab, I know. But, so all kinds of scriptures just pop up into my head. From Yeshayahu, Isaiah, Zechariah, Revelation, you name it, just all kinds of things pop up. And so I'm thinking, I don't know, there's a lot of pieces involved in this, and I don't do this for money. I seriously, I don't get paid for any of this. I want, if this is a message from our Father, from the Almighty, and if He's trying to tell me something, or if He's trying to tell the whole mishpacha, the whole family of believers, something in this dream in correlation with what's going on with the timeline and the events, the question comes up, what's He trying to say? That's really what I want to know. And for the families of these three boys and relatives of the whole family and friends, you're not alone. sorry. You're being prayed for, and we're as an American, I pray for you. That the shalom of Adonai, our Father, will definitely be with you, and that you be comforted by His Ruach. And I pray for the wisdom of the Father to be with you, as well as those who are in power that can do something about this. Because look, we know that these terrorists, the Hamas and Al-Qaeda and, just all these terrorist groups who attack Israel, and this for them was just a glorious victory, and the disgust of these acts that they have done and continue to do and celebrate and teach their children to celebrate. Vengeance belongs to the Almighty, belongs to the Lord. He will have vengeance on His enemies, on our enemies, the enemies of Israel, and so you're not alone, okay? You're loved, you're being prayed for, and yeah. So sorry. As far as the dream itself goes and the message behind it, this is a very important thing to me. Not only as just a believer, but also a teacher and a part of the family. All my brothers and sisters, if this message is important, if you have the interpretation, if you know anything about what I saw in the dream, of what that could mean or what it does mean, and you have scripture to back it up, please do so. Because there's a heaviness here, and it's important for me, because if the Almighty sends a message, it's important that that message be known, interpreted, and distributed, I believe, to the proper parties. So there you have it. If you have friends that doesn't normally watch my videos or whatever, and you think they might be able to help with this, please share it with them. And so on. I guess that's really it. And I apologize. I know this isn't a normal video. It's not even really a world news video. It's just that I'm asking for your help. And as far as the next podcast, it's I'm planning on recording that this week. That's coming. And the continuation of the series we've been talking about thus far, as well as another video talking about similarities I've found between Hebrew and Japanese, Yapani in Hebrew, and it's so there's some pretty good information coming out, and please say a prayer for me, because I'm really I should stop talking. That's what I need to do. So shalom, Total Rabba, thank you very much for listening to this, and thank you for your help. And please pray for the families of these victims, and for the leadership in Israel as well as America. We know how yellow-bellied and spineless our president is when it comes to these kind of issues, and I pray that he'll step up and really do what he needs to as America's leader, because this involves America. Whether you want to accept it or not, this affects Israel, it affects America, and in turn, in my opinion, when the two of these nations are messed with, this is going to get biblical. So, shalom. Rabba.